So we have understood the action at the level of the joints: elbow, forearm, wrist, carpometacarpal joints, MP joints, and PIP and DIP joints. He said that the elbow can flex and extend. This can pronate, supinate. Wrist can palmar flex, dorsiflex, ulnar deviate, radially deviate. Carpometacarpal joints can go into opponents, and the opponents is possible in the thumb or the pollex and the digiti minimi. Then we have talked of the MP joints. MP joint flexion is produced by lumbricals, which also extend the IP, PIP and DIP joints. And PIP and DIP extension is produced by lumbricals. And this flexion is produced by FDP for DIP, distal interphalangeal joint, and FDS for proximal interphalangeal joint. So elbow flexion is produced by brachialis and biceps. Elbow extension is produced by triceps. Forearm pronation is produced by pronator teres and pronator quadratus. And supination is produced in an extended elbow by supinator, and in a flexed elbow by biceps brachii. So we have understood which muscles can produce what movement. So usually about a muscle you should know origin, insertion, nerve supply and action. There are so many muscles, remembering them separately would be difficult. So we'll take the origin first. An origin of flexors. The lumbricals can produce flexion and flexion of the MP joint, and the extension of the MP joint is by the long extensors, which are extensor digiti minimi, extensor indicis, and extensor digitorum. The MP joint abduction is produced by DAP, dorsal interossei, and adduction by palmar interossei. So by the action at various joints, you can sort of remember the name of muscles. This is your first task. Then you are asked about origin, insertion, nerve supply, and action, of course, you have covered. So origin of flexors, the first three things you should say about all flexors is common flexor origin, antebrachial fascia, intermuscular septum. Then the origin of flexors is divided. Common flexor origin is here in the medial epicondyle. Then it is divided into humerus alone, two muscles, palmaris longus and flexor carpi radialis. into humerus and ulna. Now for this humerus and ulna, you have to remember that you are seeing the medial epicondyle here and the trochlea here, and this is the coronoid of the ulna, and this is the olecranon. On the olecranon is inserted the triceps. So there is a ligament from the medial epicondyle going towards the olecranon. This is the posterior part of ulnar collateral ligament. There is an anterior part of it and there is a transverse part of it. So from the medial epicondyle, posterior part of ulnar collateral ligament, olecranon and upper 1/4 of posterior border of ulna, arises a muscle which is called as flexor carpi ulnaris. So humerus and ulna, one muscle, flexor carpi ulnaris. From the medial epicondyle and the coronoid process arises another muscle which is pronator teres. Then there is a muscle which arises from the humerus, radius, ulna and radius. So it arises from the humerus here. It takes some parts from the coronoid process of ulna, and then here is the supinator crest arising from the radial tuberosity going up to the styloid, forming the anterior border. This is the anterior border, and since supinator arising from the ulna winding round the radius is attached to this crest, it is also called as the supinator crest. So the rest of this muscle, humerus, coronoid process and from the supinator crest, this muscle is called as flexor digitorum sublimis. Flexor digitorum superficialis or flexor digitorum sublimis. Then there is a muscle which arises from the radius and interosseous membrane. Radius and interosseous membrane. This is the flexor pollicis longus going to get inserted into the terminal phalanx of the thumb. And from the ulna and interosseous membrane, you have the flexor digitorum profundus, which divides into 4 tendons to get inserted into the rest of the phalanges. So this is the origin. Now we'll cover the insertion. So pronator teres arising like this gets inserted on the radial head. Pronator quadratus from here to the radius like this. Then you have, besides the pronator teres, you have 5 muscles. The first is flexor carpi radialis, which gets inserted onto these metacarpals, second and third. This is FCR of flexor carpi radialis. Then you have palmaris longus. This palmaris longus, as it comes down, it forms an aponeurosis which divides into 4 parts. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and this goes and connects with the fibrous flexor sheaths of the fingers. So there is the palmaris longus, and this is the muscle that will flex the wrist when it is cupped. This is the palmaris longus. Now then you have flexor carpi ulnaris, which arises from here and gets inserted into the pisiform. Then from the pisiform it goes into the hook of the hamate, forming the pissiohamate ligament. The ulnar nerve passes through this pissiohamate ligament, the deep part of it, under the pissiohamate ligament, and this canal is called as the canal of Guillain. So we have been able to cover the origin and insertion of these muscles. The nerve supply is simple. We'll cover the nerve supply. And we'll first choose the ulnar nerve. The ulnar nerve, this is the 5, 6, 7, 8, 1 roots. The upper, the middle, the lower trunks. The anterior division of these forms the lateral cord. This forms the medial cord. This forms the medial cord, this one, lower one. And all form the posterior cord. So, the ulnar nerve starts as a continuation of the medial cord. So, arises from medial cord, continues on the medial side of the brachial artery up to the middle of the arm, then pierces the intermuscular septum, becomes posterior, then passes through that canal of Cannon that I told you. Here is the medial epicondyle, here is the posterior part of ulnar collateral ligament, and the nerve passes like this under it. Lies under the flexor carpi ulnaris and superficial to flexor digitorum profundus, and starts supplying from here. So it supplies the flexor carpi, passes through the canal of Cannon, supplies flexor carpi ulnaris and flexor digitorum profundus, the medial half, which is third and fourth finger. Then gives a palmar carpal branch, here, which goes and supplies the hand here. Then this is the insertion of the flexor carpi ulnaris to the pisiform. So it comes here, divides into a superficial branch, which goes into the hand and supplies 1.5 fingers and communicates with the median. The deep branch passes under the pissiohamate ligament between the abductor digiti minimi and the flexor digiti minimi, pierces the opponents, and arches around the palm to end in the transverse head of adductor pollicis. Meanwhile, it supplies the third, fourth lumbricals and all interossei. So this is the ulnar nerve. Now the median nerve continues, arises from the lateral and medial cord, lies lateral to the artery, in the middle of the arm it becomes medial, passes between the two heads of the pronator teres. This is the humeral head and this is the ulnar head from the coronoid process. So the median nerve comes like this and passes between the two heads medially, and the artery is here. So the artery would pass as radial like this, and it will give a branch which will lie medial to the median. So the nerve would pass from, if we understand it like this, So this is the pronator teres and this is its ulnar head. The artery would pass under the becoming the radial artery and the ulnar artery, and the nerve would pass from the medial side between the two heads and become median. So this is the median nerve, how it enters the forearm. Then 5 centimeters above the wrist it gives a palmar carpal branch. 5 centimeters above palmar carpal branch supplies this, passes through the carpal tunnel just like the ulnar nerve, gives a superficial branch which supplies 3.5 fingers and communicates with the ulnar. The deep branch passes between the abductor pollicis brevis and flexor pollicis brevis, pierces the opponents and ends in the first and the second lumbrical. So all muscles in the forearm except the flexor carpi ulnaris and flexor digitorum profundus, third and fourth, are supplied by the median nerve. In the hand it supplies the hypothenar muscles and the two lumbricals. All muscles which are extensors are supplied by the radial nerve, posterior branch of the radial nerve, and this much of area is the autonomous zone of supply of the anterior branch of the radial nerve. So this is the nerve supply. You now know the origin, insertion, nerve supply and action of the muscles of the upper extremity. I have told you that the entire upper extremity is responsible for reaching at the site of object and positioning of hand in the correct position. Now how does the hand function? I will simply show you. The hand can pinch. It involves opponents of the thumb and the flexor pollicis longus acting against the flexor digitorum profundus to pinch. Now this is pincer pinch, this is accoucher pinch, this is chucknut pinch, and this is the accoucher pinch. Then this is known as the key pinch. You pinch the key like this, where this thumb acts against the radial surface of the index finger. So pincer pinch, chucknut pinch, accoucher pinch, key pinch. Now all these pinch, there is extension of MP joints and flexion at PIP and DIP joints, and they're pretty powerful pinches because long flexors, flexor digitorum profundus and flexor pollicis longus are acting. And they are best in dorsiflexion of the wrist, which is done by extensor carpi radialis longus, brevis and extensor carpi ulnaris. Then there is a grasp. Grasp means that the MP joint flexes and you hold the thing like this. So here the MP joint is flexed. That is the difference between pinch and grasp, and both these movements need opponents. Now the third is a hook action, which is like this. It does not need the thumb or the opponents. Therefore opponents is a very important movement of the hand. So the prehensile function, we have seen the prehensile function, we have seen the pinch and its varieties, which is pincer like a forceps, accoucher, chucknut like a chucknut. You must have seen a chucknut on a drill machine, or a accoucher like the obstetrician who is trying to open the vagina. Pincer, chucknut or accoucher, and then key pinch. And then there is grasp where MP joint flexes, and then there is hook action, which does not need opponents of the thumb. So this finishes the function of the upper limb.